Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. I used to think silence in a marriage was the scariest thing. Turns out, it's the things said plainly, with no shame, that cut deeper. She was leaning against the kitchen counter, arms crossed, wearing that expression I'd started recognizing more and more lately. Disdain, wrapped in detachment. We'd just had a stupid argument. I don't even remember what started it. Something about why we hadn't been close lately. Why she was always on edge. Why it felt like I lived with a stranger. And then she said it. I think it's fair, she said flatly, that if you want that again, it's going to cost you. At first, I thought I misheard her. I stared at her for a second too long, waiting for a smile, some kind of gotcha tone, but she wasn't joking. She wasn't flinching either. She just went on. I've given more than I've received in this marriage. You got my body, my time, my effort. I've earned the right to charge for what you keep asking for. I was stunned, like my brain glitched mid-thought. Wait, are you saying you want me to pay you? I asked, blinking, my voice hoarse with disbelief. She shrugged. I'm not saying it has to be cash. Gifts. Transfers. Something tangible. I'm not giving myself away anymore without something in return. I couldn't speak. Not because I was angry. No, that would have been easier. It was the fact that she'd said it so calmly. Like she was offering terms for a business transaction. She didn't even see how low it was. How hollow it made everything we used to be. She poured herself a glass of wine like she hadn't just gutted the foundation of our relationship. Sat down. Scrolled her phone. Like this was just the natural next step in marriage. I left the room. And in that moment, something inside me cracked. And I don't mean in a dramatic, explosion of anger kind of way. No, it was quiet. Internal. A click. Like a door closing somewhere in the back of my mind. Like whatever version of me had been trying to save this marriage just got up and walked out. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake next to her, staring at the ceiling, while she breathed softly beside me, completely at peace, as if nothing had changed. I started remembering the birthdays I planned meticulously while she barely glanced up from her phone. The hours I spent fixing things around the house while she ordered $200 skincare products and left the dishes in the sink for days. The way I'd rubbed her back when she was sick, held her through job losses, supported her when her mother got cancer, and suddenly none of it mattered. Because now, apparently, I owed her. Emotionally, physically, even sexually. I kept asking myself, how did we get here? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized she hadn't suddenly changed. She'd been walking this path for a while. I just hadn't seen it. The next morning, over coffee, she didn't say a word about our talk. She scrolled through her shopping app, sipping casually. I noticed her cart was full. Jewelry, heels, a designer coat. Over $1,300. She looked up and said, "Oh, can you transfer me a few hundred this week? I need to grab a few things." I stared at her. I didn't answer. Not because I was confused, but because I finally understood. This wasn't a marriage anymore. This was a transaction. Later that day, while I was at work, I got an email notification. Invoice received from Sasha R. Emotional labor and lost time. $2,000. It was a joke, right? A twisted joke. But no. I clicked it open. The note attached simply read, "Since you don't understand my value, I thought I'd start billing you for it. Fair's fair." I closed the tab and laughed. Quietly. Not because it was funny, but because that click in my head the night before, it wasn't temporary. It was permanent. She wanted to put a price on affection, on intimacy, on partnership. Fine. But she was about to learn that I don't pay for respect, especially not in my own damn marriage. And I was done begging for what should have always been mutual. I didn't mention the invoice. Didn't argue. Didn't even bring it up. I just let it sit there, unacknowledged. Like the rest of our marriage, really. Empty gestures dressed up as power plays. But from that moment on, I stopped doing the little things. The ones I used to handle without her even asking. Car maintenance. Bill pay reminders. Coffee in bed on Saturdays. All of it. I didn't slam the brakes, just took my foot off the gas. Let the inertia carry us. Funny thing about silence. It says more than shouting ever could. That week, I watched her. Really watched her. The way she'd leave dishes in the sink until they reeked. The way she ordered DoorDash 3 nights in a row and called it efficient. The way she'd call me controlling anytime I asked where our money was going, but had no problem asking for my card when hers hit the limit. One morning, I saw her scrolling on her phone, headphones in, giggling. She didn't notice me behind her in the hallway. I leaned just enough to see the screen. She was messaging someone named Derek. Just a few lines, nothing intimate, but enough. A little too much laughing. A little too many lols and playful jabs. I didn't flinch. I didn't even get angry. I just made a mental note. Later that day, she sent me a voice memo. Hey babe, so I've been thinking. Since I've been holding down the emotional side of this marriage for so long, I think it's time we rebalance the scales. Maybe a monthly stipend? You know, like an appreciation retainer. An appreciation retainer. I played the message twice. Not because I didn't believe it the first time, but because I wanted to hear the tone. She sounded proud. Triumphant. That night, I pretended to be too tired for dinner. She didn't care. She ordered sushi for herself and posted it on Instagram with the caption, "Date night with the best company, me nail polish medium light skin own." The next day, I called the bank. Quietly moved some of our joint funds into a separate personal account. Just enough to cushion the landing. The day after that, I contacted a friend, Andrew, who's a lawyer. Nothing official yet. Just a feeler. He's helped people like me before. Guys who didn't catch on until the trap was already snapping shut. And then came the moment that changed everything. Saturday morning. She thought I was out running errands. I had parked a block away and walked back to the house. I needed to grab some paperwork from my home office, contracts from work, but when I opened the door, I heard voices. Hers. And someone else's. I paused at the stairs. The voice was male, mid-30s, confident. You really think he suspects anything? The guy asked, chuckling. She laughed, the same giggle I'd heard on the voice memo. He suspects everything. But he won't do anything. That's the beauty of it. I stood there, completely still, heart calm in a way I didn't expect. What if he finds out about the fund? The guy asked. She snorted. Let him. Half that money's in my name. He's too passive to touch it. The fund. My fund. The one I'd built for a potential down payment on a lake cabin we dreamed about for years. Or rather, I had dreamed about. And that's when I realized she wasn't waiting for a divorce to cash out. She was cashing out while staying married. And I was just the idiot signing the checks. I turned and walked out before either of them saw me. Did I cry? No. I went in my car, started it, and drove straight to Andrew's office. Not to file yet, but to start. To protect what was mine. To make sure, when the storm came, she'd be the one standing in the wreckage, wondering how I went from passive to invisible. That night, she asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I smiled. Not tonight. Got a few things I'm working on. She smirked like she'd won. But I had already started packing the kind of bag she'd never see. I've always believed that silence is a weapon. And used correctly, it can carve deeper than words ever could. After I left Andrew's office, I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car for a while, engine running, watching the pedestrians move past like background noise. The sun was setting behind me, casting a long shadow through the windshield. I stared at it for a long time. That's how my marriage felt. A long, fading shadow. Still visible, but empty. Just a trace of something that used to feel alive. I went back to the house like nothing had happened. She was on the couch, a wine glass in one hand, scrolling TikTok with the other. A show was playing on mute in the background. She glanced up and smiled. Hey, you're back. That was all. No, how was your day? No, where were you? Just your back, like I was a package left on the porch. I nodded and walked past her. That night, while she slept in the bedroom with a silk mask over her eyes and one leg kicked out like she owned the bed, I got to work. I pulled her old laptop from the office drawer. The one she hadn't used in months, supposedly. She'd left it behind when she upgraded. Probably forgot it still had auto-login on several accounts. I clicked through without a word. Email. Socials. Even her browser history, which she'd tried to delete, sloppily. Most of it was what I expected. Spa packages, influencer crap, high-end jewelry. But then I saw it. An anonymous Reddit account. Username, monetized Muse. I opened it, expecting nothing. But the top post had 1,400 upvotes. How I got my husband to pay me for intimacy without him even knowing. I read every word. It was a play-by-play. She didn't use names, but the details were unmistakable. How she weaponized vulnerability to trigger guilt. How she gave just enough affection to keep him paying without realizing it was transactional. How she'd conditioned him over time to tie physical affection with material reward. There were comments. Applause. Other women asking for advice, offering tips, comparing techniques. She had fans, and she was proud of it. I didn't close the tab. I emailed it to myself, took screenshots, stored backups. I went to the next post. It was worse. Considering going full sugar baby while married, advice? She wrote that her husband was a decent guy but boring, and that she missed feeling desired. That she'd tested the waters with a private content page under a fake name, and that someone from her circle subscribed, and she kind of liked the thrill. The account had linked profiles. I followed the trail. Instagram. Private. But the profile pic matched her cheek mole perfectly. Same gold necklace. Same living room. Same smile. I opened the browser on my phone and typed in the name she used. Just a hunch. And there it was. A paper message site. Photos. Some suggestive, some shameless. Some clearly taken in our home. She was using our furniture as a set. And I was footing the lighting bill. I didn't get angry. I didn't scream or punch a wall. I just took a breath. And I made 3 phone calls. First, Andrew, the lawyer. I told him to draft a post-nup with asset protection clauses. I wanted her to sign something for financial clarity. She'd buy it. I'd make her think it was for her benefit. Second, I called my HR department and quietly redirected part of my salary into a private investment account. Third, I contacted a cybersecurity friend of mine from college. Told him I needed everything on a Reddit account and a tied social alias. Every backup, every hidden folder. No questions asked. I walked back into the bedroom and lay down beside her. She didn't stir. I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who once used to hold my hand in movie theaters. Who used to whisper in my ear on long drives. Who once cried when I surprised her with a weekend getaway just to watch the leaves change. Now she was auctioning pieces of herself to faceless strangers, just to feel wanted. Or powerful. And the worst part? She thought I didn't know. But I did. And now I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her consequence. 3 days after discovering the Reddit account, I slid the draft across the kitchen island and sipped my coffee like it was any other morning. She looked up from her phone. What's this? I smiled. A post-nup. Financial clarity, mostly. Protects both of us. In case anything happens. She blinked. Why now? I shrugged. Because I'm tired of feeling unsure. You've been talking a lot lately about giving more than receiving. I just want to make sure what's mine stays mine, and what's yours stays yours. Equality, right? That word, equality, lit her up like a bulb. She sat up straighter, like she'd won something. I had already anticipated that. The document was ironclad. Crafted to appear balanced, but strategically locked. My retirement accounts? Untouchable. My investments? Secured under a premarital umbrella. Any debt she accumulated post-signing? Her burden alone. She flipped through it, barely skimming. Her ego was louder than her suspicion. That's what I was counting on. Do I need a lawyer to look at this? I shook my head. Only if you don't trust me. She paused. And that pause told me everything I needed to know. Then she smiled and grabbed a pen. Signed her name in looping cursive. That night, I transferred the remaining household account balance into the protected vault Andrew and I had set up. Not illegal. Not hidden. Just reclassified. She'd signed away her entitlement. The next step was cleanup. I cleared browser histories, wiped shared devices, and removed every trace of the Reddit and alt social media accounts from our joint network. I'd already saved everything I needed, screenshots, posts, metadata, financial transaction IDs. I'd even printed copies and had them stored in 3 different places. I wasn't going to be the husband who couldn't prove it. Now, all that was left was the stage. I waited for the right moment, a Friday night. The kind where she usually poured 2 glasses of wine but drank them both. The kind where she scrolled through luxury handbags while texting God knows who. I came in casually, holding a manila folder in one hand and my phone in the other. Hey, I said, tossing the folder onto the coffee table. She raised an eyebrow. What's this? Proof, I said, sitting across from her. That I know everything. She froze. The first page was a printout of her Reddit post. The one with 1,400 upvotes. She blinked. That could be anyone. Second page is metadata, I said. Third has matching IP addresses. Fourth is a breakdown of the payment logs from the site tied to your alt account. Last page? A photo you took in our bathroom. You used a bath mat your sister gave you. There's a timestamp on the mirror. Her face drained of color. She reached for the folder. I stopped her hand. You don't need to flip through it. I memorized it all. Silence. The kind that hums. Heavy. Hollow. I leaned in just a bit. You told strangers how to exploit guilt, how to condition affection for profit. You turned our marriage into a vending machine and started charging for selections. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. I continued. Calm. Measured. I didn't leave because I was weak. I stayed because I wanted to see who you really were when you thought I wasn't watching. Her mouth finally moved. You went through my... No. You posted it publicly. You monetized our life. I just collected the invoice. I stood up, dropped a small envelope next to the folder. What's this? She asked, her voice cracking. A courtesy copy of the postnup you signed, and the withdrawal slips from our joint accounts. I didn't wait for her to respond. I walked upstairs, packed a bag, and loaded it into my truck. I wasn't storming out. I wasn't slamming doors. I was done being the guy who begged to be respected in a house he paid for. She followed me to the door. Where are you going? She asked, and for the first time, she sounded small. I looked her dead in the eyes. You charged me for affection. I'm just closing the tab. Then I left. Not for a night. Not for clarity. For good. I didn't look back as I drove away. Not because I didn't care, but because I'd done my part. I'd held the line longer than anyone with self-respect should. I'd offered patience, grace, forgiveness, all without asking for applause. And she cashed it in like a coupon. I stayed at a friend's place for a week while the legal side settled. Andrew filed the papers swiftly, postnup already in place, evidence packaged and notarized. She never contested it. Not after the folder. Not after realizing I wasn't bluffing. The last message she ever sent me was short. Can we at least talk about this? I never answered. I didn't need closure. I'd already gotten it. The moment she asked me to put a price on what should have always been given freely. She moved out of the house 2 weeks after the divorce finalized. I sold the property 3 months later and used the funds to buy a modest place outside the city. Smaller, quieter, peaceful. There's no echo anymore when I speak. No invisible price tags on the coffee I pour or the favors I give. Just quiet. Honest quiet. Sometimes I think about her. Not with hatred. Not even sadness. Just clarity. She turned intimacy into a ledger. She thought affection was a currency. That love should come with interest. She forgot that when you treat your partner like a customer, eventually the customer walks out. I did. And I never looked back. But there was another path I could have taken. The night she signed the postnup, I could have ripped it up. I could have told her I knew about everything and begged her to change. Begged for honesty. For love. For the woman I used to know. She might have cried. She might have said all the right things. Maybe we would have tried to rebuild. Counseling. Boundaries. False starts. But deep down, every touch would have felt bought. Every kiss a negotiation. Every I love you followed by an asterisk. And eventually, I would have woken up one morning, beside the same woman, and realized I hadn't slept in months. Not because of noise, but because my soul had gone quiet. I've often imagined a different outcome. One where I confronted her the night I overheard her and that other guy in the house. I would have walked in, sat them both down, told them I knew everything, shown them the folder, watched their faces twist, and then I'd have let him walk. But her? I would have let her explain fully, in her own words, just to hear the depth of the delusion. Maybe she would have admitted the Reddit posts. Maybe she'd have laughed. Or maybe she'd have cried, not because she was sorry, but because she lost the audience she thought would never leave. And then I would have stood up, taken her wedding ring off my finger, and dropped it in her wine glass, watched it sink to the bottom. No shouting. Just that one gesture. The sound it made. The silence that followed. But that's not how it ended. In the real version, I left without giving her another second of my voice. She thought love was something you could price. I reminded her it's something you can lose.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.